Today, we look at Windows 10 end of life and Windows 11 upgrade options with Tanium. Welcome back to Tanium Tech Talks. I'm your host, Ashley McGlone. Is the man bun trend done yet? That top knot, I know it's popular around the world. I just never could quite get used to it. It looks like guys are doing the mustache now, and I have to tell you, it's going to take me a while to get used to that. And I've seen them for a few years, but it's just different, right? Keeping up with style can be challenging. I don't, maybe fun, changing things up, but it's change, right? And speaking of change, Windows 10 is no longer in style. That's right. Hasn't been for a while. And Microsoft is pushing everyone to Windows 11 by October 2025. At least if you want support and patches, right? That's probably a good idea. But yes, it's Groundhog Day again. Operating system upgrades are routine for anyone building a career in IT operations, and typically in past years that means that years have passed between the major OS upgrades, and there's probably been staff turnover at your company for the people that did this last time. Microsoft's probably changed their tooling again, and Tanium is here to help. So, our guest today would rather be organizing his cable drawer than talking in front of people. But you've seen him many times now. So, Jason, please introduce yourself for our audience once again.
Yeah, hello everyone, and thanks Ashley for having me. My name is Jason Wasser. I'm a senior advanced consulting engineer at Tanium. My specialty is in operations, and I've come back again to talk more about the end of support of yet another operating system.
Let's go back. How many years has it been now? When did Microsoft release Windows 10?
Yeah, 2015. Can you remember back then, 2015? I mean, they had this goal of a common application framework across Windows PC, tablet, and phone. And do you remember the Windows Phone?
I remember the Windows Phone. I was an employee of Microsoft at the time, and we used to have these races. We would challenge people to boot time, like, okay, turn off your iPhone. We got to boot the Windows Phone, and let's see who gets there to their home screen, whatever. It didn't last. There's no way they could have caught the iPhone. But, we've had 3 releases of server since then, right? I mean, it's 2016, 2019, 2022. Are we talking about Windows Server end of life at all today, or is this primarily focused on desktop?
Today, we got to focus on Windows 10, right? And
Okay.
maybe we'll have to come back in another year for the end of Windows Server 2016 because it will be at its 10-year mark next year.
Oh, is this like those class reunions?
Yeah, yeah, we'll be back. We'll be a little bit older. Our computers might be a little bit older. And there's been 14 versions of Windows 10. Can you believe that?
Wow. Well, I wanted to ask. I remember the promise of like LTSC, these long-term service editions. How long is long-term? I mean, how long are people going to stretch these things?
Oh man, yeah. Well, what we'll be covering today, we'll give you all the dates of the support timelines, but some of them, Windows 10 IoT versions might be good till 2032.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, like you said, 14 different releases of Windows 10. So that means that we're not going to kick this can anymore. What are our options?
Yeah, it feels like, it's time for a tearful goodbye of Windows 10, but maybe it isn't, right? Just like in the past, Microsoft has released or made available extended security updates for those who are willing and able to pay for extra patches, right? So Windows 10 will be good for another 3 years if you're willing to pay for those patches, or what they'd really like is for you to upgrade to Windows 11. And that's the critical choice that everybody's got to face, right? Every organization has to make that decision. And some of that is uh, maybe it's specialized equipment, right? And so maybe we do need to pay, or maybe we're not ready to do the upgrade, or maybe the hardware that we have won't make the cut, right? Because Windows 11 requires additional hardware requirements to get to that version. And so maybe we just have to maybe buy a year of extended security updates until we can afford to replace the hardware and get that deployed.
Yeah, I know I've got a few old Windows 10 machines around, and I ran the compatibility checker. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to cut it there. Yes, Groundhog Day, right? The more things change, the more they stay the same. I mean, these ESU updates, historically, people have had to pay through the nose. And for those of you who are not living in the United States or know what it means to say paying through the nose, it's very expensive to try to license those things. And often, you're running hardware compatibility checks, and there's more than just software cost. You might have to upgrade some things. And so, Jason, a lot of people are probably using Intune today to do some of this. What's the benefit that Tanium would? Why would I, if I've got Intune already, why would I choose Tanium to do this?
Yeah, I would say where Tanium shines is the ability to have more predictable timing and interaction with the user, right? So when I can use Intune to deploy updates, upgrades in rings, but I don't have exact timing such as maintenance windows or when I want that to fire. It's more like this is okay. You can go out to the endpoints whenever. With Tanium, we can have this scheduled deployment. We have maintenance windows. We can have these pre and post notifications. We also have that engage opportunity to survey the user before, during, after the upgrade process so we can get feedback. So there's a lot of advantages of using Tanium to do that. The delivering of the bits in the background with our architecture is also extremely efficient and reliable. So if the endpoint is moving around a lot, it's going through different internet connections, we can make sure that those upgrade bits get there.
A nice, really nice value add if you're using Tanium there to kind of it. Intune will do it, and Tanium's going to add some extra sauce. So there's a lot to consider here. Please tell me that Tanium's going to give me a nice report to tell me all these things I need to consider.
Oh, yes. And that's what we want to focus on today. Tanium Guardian has released a dashboard called the Guardian Spotlight Windows 10 End of Support. And you can find this by going to your reporting section of the console data and then dashboards and then finding the Windows 10 End of Support dashboard. And what I'd like to do is just walk through this dashboard together and talk through the different scenarios, what's included, what's not included, and then even maybe talk about how to get those upgrades done and how to get those ESU licenses applied so that you can continue that security hygiene of your environment. So the first section here is a lot about what we've been talking about, right? Windows 10, it's October 14th, it will get its last patch. But there are other versions of Windows 10, such as long-term servicing channel, that will receive patches a little bit longer. We'll cover that. And those machines and types of machines that live in Azure will automatically receive those additional security updates. There's no need to apply ESU licenses there. So that would include like Azure Virtual Desktop and Windows 365. So our actions that we have that we discuss, right, is we need to upgrade to the latest version of Windows, migrate to Azure, or to purchase and apply these ESU or extended security update licenses.
I'm familiar with, okay, upgrade to the latest version of Windows, right? That makes sense. Activate ESUs. That's the painful, expensive part. But then migrating Windows 10 endpoints to an Azure hosted solution. So Azure has hosted Windows 10 virtual desktops for a while. So they're using this. It sounds like Microsoft will never waste an opportunity to plug Azure here. So I don't know how many companies have really adopted Windows 10 in the cloud hosted, but this is an opportunity there that we haven't had as often, or we've not really had this opportunity in the past with Upgrade Pass.
Yeah,
Um,
they've always encouraged you to move your servers to Azure to continue that support. Maybe it's for an application, line of business application that's can't be upgraded or you're not ready to. And it's going to be the same way here, right? If you can't upgrade the hardware, let's maybe move it to a virtual desktop available in the cloud so that you can continue to get those security patches.
and it says that that's the ESU extended security updates are so if is it free if I move my Win 10 VMs to the cloud that in Azure it automatically gives me those, or do I still have to pay for the
Yeah, it's free
wink
to the
wink?
point of talk to your licensing representative, right? Because you still have to pay for the services of running Windows in the cloud.
Yeah. Okay. And of course, neither one of us today work for Microsoft. Please see official Microsoft documentation.
Yes. And
Yes.
that's linked here as well. So we're
Yeah.
throughout this dashboard, we're going to provide you with links to Microsoft documentation as well as more Tanium documentation. And so that definitely there's going to be a lot of information packed into this dashboard that can be helpful just to get a grasp on what you can do today, what you can do in the future to make sure your organization is staying up to date.
And it's worth noting, this should not be a surprise. Jason, how
Yes.
long has Microsoft been telling people, "Hey, Windows 10 end of life's coming. Get onto Windows 11"? I mean, that's been in the news for years now. We've even done a previous episode, maybe 2 years ago, on this show talking about Windows 10 dashboards and Tanium, and now we got new improved dashboards here. So this should not be a surprise to you. But if maybe you work for a small shop and you've just had other priorities, this dashboard looks like it's got everything you need in one spot.
Yeah, it helps to work at a place that's forward thinking and has been preparing for the Windows upgrades as they come. But sometimes not everybody can do that. And so we just want to make sure, especially maybe you have prepared well and you're in the progress or you're mostly done. This is going to help you identify maybe where you might have missed something, right? Because that visibility that Tanium gives you is critical. And that's really the first thing here that we list about how Tanium can help with this Windows 10 end of support event, right? Is that real-time inventory of hardware, software, and operating systems. That criticality, that base functionality of the Tanium platform of giving you that visibility is essential for this and for really every IT and security use case and hygiene and secure incident response because we want to make sure we know exactly what's going on across all of our endpoints. So tracking that inventory is critical. Then we're going to talk about, okay, what endpoints can actually get to Windows 11? And this is just assessing the hardware compatibility. Right? There's software compatibility reasons, and we'll talk about those. But we have a dashboard that we built in, and that we have a tech talk on that covers checking the hardware compatibility. We can also help you upgrade to Windows 11 doing with Tanium Deploy. This could also mean maybe upgrade to the supported version of Windows 10 because not all versions of Windows 10 support extended security updates. And we'll cover that too, but we're gonna give you all this information because I think this is a high level view and we're gonna dive into each of these. Now, as you're bringing new machines online that you've purchased that do support Windows 11, Tanium Provision can help you uh, get those images deployed with the set of software that you need with the Tanium client there to manage that. It's getting your organizational standard images deployed. And then this dashboard is going to help us track and apply those ESU licenses. And then Tanium can also help with getting feedback throughout the process, the preparation for the upgrade, the process of the upgrade, and the feedback afterwards as well, right? How is your endpoint doing? So getting that digital employee experience feedback from the end users is going to be helpful as you roll out the new version of Windows.
Now, this is really interesting, Jason, to see just over the years. You and I have both been at Tanium for a long time now, and to see, okay, it used to just be, okay, here's a interact query to show you all your operating system versions, but now we've got provision out there to do the upgrades, or I should say, to do new hardware. A lot of times you have to buy that new hardware. We can provision those new endpoints in addition to deploy to do the in-place upgrades, and then Tanium Engage now. And you can ask your end users, hey, how was that upgrade experience, right? I mean, this is, we've got a really nice, well-rounded package that has been fun to watch that come together over the years.
That's a good point. That whole life cycle of the endpoint, including the end user experience, is so critical. The final thing I wanted to comment here is just like these overview charts of how many different versions of Windows workstation or client operating system do we have. We won't talk about this Windows 7 endpoint here, but you might have those out there too. And then, of course, how many endpoints are in the danger zone, right? How many support is it going to be ending on or before October of this year, right? So this is a good total count number with the trending information. Are we doing better as far as reducing this number and getting them to the supported in a supported state? Now I want to scroll down to the next section. This is just going to be more information about the extended security update support and the long-term servicing channels. And particularly, we don't have to go through all these dates here, but there have been several versions of long-term servicing channel additions of Windows. And addition is really critical, right? Because we've got versions of Windows, Windows 10, there's different versions of Windows 10, but the addition also affects its support lifecycle, right? So the additions might be home or professional, enterprise, LTSC, IoT. But I wanted to call out here that the original version of LTSC, which was actually called LTSB back then, also ends this October, right? So if you have that version of Windows 10, you need to get that upgraded or replaced as well. So these versions of Windows 10 will not require extended security updates, and they also have an extended support lifecycle. So those dates are here for you to review, but not only here for you to review, but you can actually see the data in these different number charts here. So I can actually see just how many of those that I have of different IoT or LTSC versions, but we can also see how many 22H2 endpoints we have that are not hosted in Azure and ones that are hosted in Azure, right? Because these machines will automatically receive those extended security updates with no additional configurations needed. And then we wanted to specifically call out this number here. This is the number of endpoints that are ineligible to receive extended security updates. These are the action items here. These are Windows 10 endpoints that have already expired, basically. And this is also shown here in this chart here, because we're showing different build numbers of versions of older Windows that either they're at an older version or an edition that's no longer supported. So say it's 1809 and Enterprise. Well, that's already expired. So that machine is no longer receiving security updates. It's been a problem. We're just giving you the awareness of that so you can add that as part of your upgrade path.
Yeah, and this obviously, as you're going through an upgrade, these bars, these graphs should be trending downward. And like
Yes.
you said earlier, this is a great checkpoint to see, okay, we've done we're almost through our project, our Windows 10 migrations. Did we miss anything? That's perfect to see that.
The other thing we wanted to call out, and I'll just mention it. Windows 10 has to be at 22H2 to receive extended security updates, right? So that means you can upgrade older version of Windows 10 to Windows 11, or if you need to stay on Windows 10, you need to make sure it's at the 22H2 version, and it needs to have at least a patch up, has to be patched at least up to 2024 September, right? So that's important, right? We have Tanium patch. You should be auto patching your endpoints, using zero touch patching as we've talked about so many times together. So let's make sure your Windows 10 endpoints are patched, and we'll call that out here as well in this next section. So I'm going to scroll down now to the extended security update management section of the dashboard. So if you need to stay on Windows 10 for some of your endpoints, we need to identify those endpoints. We need to apply the extended security update license to them. And this is going to give us that ability to track that and to take action on that. So this explains that it's a 3-year program. It costs $61 per endpoint for the first year. And if you want to go to the second year, you still have to buy year one. And the price doubles every year. So when you're talking about paying a lot of money for this, yes, you do have to pay a lot of money for this to continue to stay on Windows 10. The other thing I want to call is the results of these donut charts here. All right, we're calling out the year one, year two, year three license status, right? Are the endpoints licensed for year one, year two, year three? Are they unlicensed, or are they license not found? Right. And so what this means, if you see license not found, that means your endpoint is not patched enough to even know that it could receive an extended security update license. So what that means, the next step is to make sure you get those endpoints patched, yeah, and then you can apply the extended security update license to them. We have an article that's linked here that discusses this whole dashboard, and applying the licenses, which we're talking about today. But I highly recommend this link here as a reference point because of this next step. Because the actual taking action of the ESU, that's what we need to do. We need to get that license to the endpoint, apply it, and activate it. And that's done through this Guardian dashboard. Now it
All right, so
explains.
I gotta ask right 1 second right here. So in the past, we have only reported really on status, but now you're telling me it's not only visibility, it's also control. Now we can actually deploy the ESU licenses right from here.
You got it. And we're giving you the count of those endpoints that are actionable as well, right? So it's not just showing you that there's a problem. That's really helpful. But actually being able to take action on these endpoints at speed and scale, that's where Tanium shines. And this dashboard is going to help your teams take action and make sure your endpoints are fully licensed to receive their extended security updates. This panel here, this action panel that we'll be working with next, has some explanation of how to use it. And I'm going to highlight some of those key things now before I actually push the button. But when we're ready, that's all we need to do is push the button, enter our license information. When you want to apply an extended security update license, you first have to obtain a license, and that can be done through your Microsoft portal or through partners. And it's going to give you one of those 5x5 license keys, right? Those 5 letters, numbers, combos that you can apply to apply the license. And we want to grab this information here. This is the license ID. Uh, and there's a different license ID for each year. And the license IDs for reference for the other years are going to be available in this article. They're linked over here. But we're going to take this license ID and then copy that to our clipboard. And then we're going to proceed with the button, clicking the button. It's going to tell us what to do. So we're going to walk through that now. So if I want to apply, I purchased my license. I want to apply the ESU license to my endpoints. I'm going to click the button, and it's going to pre-fill that package that we need to use. This is the Activate Microsoft Product Key package. Now, the license ID that I just copied to my clipboard, I'm going to paste here. And then that 5x5 license number that you or product key that you get from Microsoft is what you paste in here. And finally, if you wish the endpoints to activate online, you can check this box here. Now, what does that mean? Applying the license is step one, activating the license is step two. And this makes it all in one step. Now, activating online does mean the endpoint will require internet access to the Microsoft activation servers. If it's not available, internet access is not available, you can still use the VAMT tool, the Volume Activation Management tool by Microsoft, to activate those endpoints that do not have internet access.
So clarify for me again, product key versus license ID. What's the difference there?
Yeah, the product key, this is a well-known, this is what references the actual year one license on the endpoint, the configuration. This is the one you have to pay for and that you'll get issued when you obtain the license. Now, when you're ready to actually deploy this, this is the typical action screen that we've known for a long time, but we can, of course, do this now. We can do this later, and we can show preview to continue, and we can even leverage our deployment plans that we've talked about before, or maybe we want to send this out to endpoints in phases because we do know that it's doing that online activation. Maybe we just want to deploy this in waves, or we could just simply choose this distribute over and say, I want to do this over the next hour, just so they're not all trying to activate all at once. And when I'm ready, I can show preview to continue and then deploy the action. The endpoints will receive that product key, activate it, and then be ready to go. And after that, there's nothing to do on the endpoint. Tanium patch will then automatically be able to scan for and deploy extended security updates.
And I'm guessing too, so uh, it's never one size fits all, right? So for some customers, there's going to be a batch of hardware that needs to be updated, and then for others, maybe they're not going to update the hardware and they want to do the ESUs. I would guess there's probably a step in here for most companies where they would want to use some Tanium custom tags, maybe to hit the machines that they know are going to get ESUs. Maybe they've crafted the criteria using some of the things they've seen here, and then create a computer group of that custom tag so when they target that action, they're not hitting every single Windows 10 device, maybe the ones that they've already curated.
And that's always the case, right? When we show you a nice pretty demo, the real world is you're in control. You know, or you should know where you need to be targeting your license keys, right? Because if you know you've these endpoints have been designated that they cannot be upgraded, then we need to focus on those. But these other set of endpoints, these end user workstations, they're fine to upgrade. They're scheduled to upgrade next month. So let's not waste an activation key on those endpoints. After activation, after we deploy the activation, these dashboards will update. But I do want to call out that the license status takes about 24 hours to update in this dashboard. That's part of just the way that it works. So, but you will see over time where this green might, go larger. All right. So if you apply license key and you're like, hey, why isn't it green right away? Well, although we have real-time visibility, not everything in the real world is actual real time, but you can come back in a day and make sure that those are activated.
So that sounds like a dependency on the Windows operating system, then, how fast it refreshes, maybe?
It has something to do with the way our sensor's written to collect the information, to be kind on the endpoint, because it does take a while to collect this information. We don't want to hammer the endpoints unnecessarily.
Are we actually running like the compatibility tool on endpoints via Tanium? How are we assessing that?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. This last section, we can talk about that compatibility, and then that'll lead us into the upgrades discussion, right? So we've got our Windows 10 endpoints that have to stay. We can apply those ESUs and track that. But what about the upgrade scenario, right? And in this case, this section is actually borrowing dashboards from the Windows 11 compatibility dashboard that you've talked about before on the show. This is going to show us, this is using a Microsoft provided PowerShell script to identify the hardware compatibility of the endpoints, not the software compatibility, just the hardware compatibility. Do the endpoints have the appropriate version of TPM, enough memory, enough storage, the right CPU? Does it have secure boot enabled? And so you can view the entire dashboard here. So we can link to that here. We can also see VMs that aren't compatible because that's a different scenario, like you mentioned. Like maybe we can just change something in the hypervisor to enable secure boot TPM, and then now the machine can be upgraded to Windows 11. But tracking this hardware readiness uh, over time as well is helpful to know, okay, which endpoints do we have that can make the cut, which ones are upgrading, which ones are already Windows 11, which ones are Windows still in Windows 10.
And like any other Tanium dashboard, you just click the blue numbers to drill down and get the detailed reports for
That's
what you need to
correct.
drive your processes. Yeah.
That's
And
correct.
I can imagine too, with like a lot of shops doing ServiceNow for workflow automation, you can set up some automation there to kind of drive all that as well.
So I think the next important topic to cover is the upgrade process, right? And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch to Tanium Deploy. All right, so now that I'm in Tanium Deploy, I'm going to go to the package gallery and talk about our upgrade options. I'm going to hide some of this just so it's just not in the way. There are two upgrade paths. So we talked about how we can upgrade to Windows 11, or we need to get to a supported version of Windows 10. Let's talk about the upgrade to Windows 11 first. Now we have these in-place upgrade packages in the gallery, right? So the deploy gallery is predefined packages that you can import and deploy, right? And you can use these to upgrade your existing endpoints to a newer version of Windows. These are the full upgrade process. And I'm going to clarify what that means later because there's another method as well. But in this case, if I want to say I want the in-place upgrade to Windows 11 and I want version 24H2. So I'm typing this out because I know what it's called, but I could just search for 24H2 and find these. But you can see here there are four packages. There's phase one, phase two, and phase three, and there's actually two versions of phase one. All right, so I'm going to give you a high level of each. Phase one is let's get the installation OS files staged. Let's get the ISO or the setup files for Windows 11 to the endpoint ready to go. And after we deliver those bits to the endpoint, now let's run the setup compatibility. This is where we're using the existing Windows setup utility to determine not only the hardware, but now also the software compatibility of the endpoint. Phase two is used as needed. This is when I deploy the bits to the endpoint, I run the setup compatibility check, and it returns a result saying I've got an incompatible driver or piece of software. All right, so I use Tanium Deploy to upgrade that driver, maybe remove the incompatible software. I redeploy phase two to the endpoint to have it rerun that compatibility check. If the machine is ready, it will automatically be available for the phase three. Phase three actually does the installation, right? So it actually takes those bits that we stored there and actually runs the setup and then restarts the computer into the new version of Windows.
And I
The,
think we've talked about this actually several years ago on the show. This whole end user self service interface where users can trigger this process at their own convenience, so you're not disrupting their work life.
That's correct. Yes. So many of these phases can be done in the background without the user needing to be interrupted. Phase three is where we need to interrupt the user, right? We want to let them know ahead of time that this is coming and that they need to restart and then give them a chance to do, finish whatever they're doing before we restart the computer. It's also important that, that the message that you include in that notification tells them that this restart might take longer than expected, longer than normal, right? Because it's not a normal restart. When this is restarting, it's going to be applying the Windows 11 upgrade and restarting into the new version of the OS. The two phase one packages, I'm just going to call out the difference and we're going to walk through them. There is the direct cache method. This is designed for work from home scenarios where endpoints are not peering with one another, right? That peering architecture with Tanium allows us to deliver bits extremely efficiently. But what if they're not peering? What if they're just working from home or Starbucks or somewhere else? Then this version of the package will automatically tell the endpoint to download the Windows setup files from Microsoft. So instead of using the Tanium architecture, the endpoint can reach out to Microsoft CDN and pull down the Windows setup files. And then it will perform the same compatibility check. It's just how the bits get delivered. Whereas the pre-cache method is where we're going to attach or add our ISO, our setup file, to the package. So I can click the import button here, which I've already done, but I can import this package, or actually I can import all of them. And when I import them, they are available here in my software packages. So if I look at this here, I can see I have a pre-cache 24H2. So if I look at this package after I import it, my next step is I need to add the ISO to it, right? Because we want Tanium to deliver that for us. So now I've already done it, but I can simply click add and click local file, and I can upload that Windows 11 patched ISO to the package. And then when I save the package, I can then deploy this to endpoints to have them download and run that compatibility check. After they've completed the compatibility check, like we said, we'll deploy phase three. So if I look for phase three, I can then deploy phase three out to my endpoints. And also, like we talked about, we want to have that pre-notification, post-notification. That's the upgrade. That's the full upgrade to go from Windows 10 to Windows 11. Now, if you need to keep an endpoint on Windows 10, and it's an older version of Windows 10, so it's no longer supported, right? We need to do that. We may have to do that full upgrade as well from like a Windows 10 1809 edition to Windows 10 22H2. It's the same process. We can go to the gallery, find the in-place upgrade packages for Windows 10 22H2. One other method is if you're close, and this is why this is important to call out. Windows 10 has several versions that can be easily uplifted to 22H2, and it's called the feature update or enablement package. And what this means is if a machine is patched enough and it's in the 2100 series or 2000 series, so Windows 10 2004, 20H1, 20H2, 21H1. And again, this is all documented in our user guide, but these packages can be deployed to get an older version, a slightly older version of Windows 10 up to 22H2. And this could include 64-bit and 32-bit. I'll just switch over to that self-service view that we talked about. So if I go to my Windows computer and I start the self-service client that's built in with Tanium, I can actually look here and see if I have any of these upgrades available that I can run. Now this endpoint is already on Windows 11, but I can see where the upgrade could be available to me, where maybe I can, as part of that engaged survey, where look, we're going to have, maybe we want some volunteers to go first. We can tell them how they can go ahead and start the process sooner. Or we also, if that feature update that we talked about, where we've got older versions of Windows 10, we can also make that available to the user as well. So getting the user involved in the process, giving them some agency, helps them feel like they have some sense of control and understanding of what's going on.
So the user would just click on the tile there and tell it to go. Yeah. In
That's
this case,
correct.
it's not applicable. Got it.
It's not applicable because I don't, this is a Windows 11 endpoint, but if it was applicable, it would automatically
Mhm.
light up. In fact, I'm showing them all, but if it was applicable, it wouldn't even, it just would be right here. So the difference between all and applicable is this is what I can actually, as a user, this is what I can actually take action on. And all is everything that was available to me, but maybe it's not applicable to my machine. The other thing I wanted to call out is, our documentation for Windows upgrades, but also our the Tuning Tanium series, right? So the Tuning Tanium series, we have two on Windows upgrades, and these are I want to go into the weeds of doing the upgrades, what to do right, what to do when things go wrong, and the detailed logs that you can collect and review, and how to make that process as smooth as possible.
Yeah, those tuning Tanium videos, if you're a Tanium customer, our support center uses their support volume to answer, hey, what's hot lately in our support queues? And so they'll do these great webinars where they walk you through some detailed information. Also, here in the Tanium Tech Talks playlist on YouTube that's public for everybody, you can also see things like the provision walkthrough that we talked about. How if you got new hardware coming in and you need to put a fresh image of Windows 11 on there, we've got a full walkthrough with Rob Brawl, really popular video actually. A lot of people really like that one. So lots of options where Tanium's got you covered here for any whichever way you need to get from Windows 10 to Windows 11 or keep 10 supported. Sounds like we've got you covered, Jason. This has been a fantastic walkthrough, and I think you mentioned there's a KB article also linked in the dashboard there. So we've got lots of documentation for you. Those links will be in the show notes below. Jason, anything else as we wrap up here today?
I don't think so. I think this has been really helpful. I think we're going to getting this into the hands of the customers is great. That we can help them see where they're at with their Windows upgrades, with where Windows 10 exists, how to get to Windows 11, how to keep those Windows 10 endpoints going for a couple more years.
Yeah, and one of our previous guests on the show said, it's IT. You need to deploy something. Well, number one, you need to, think about the whole life cycle of I've got the next thing to deploy. I know, number one, I need to scan my environment, see where I'm at, what needs it. Then I need to be able to deploy it, track that, report back progress over time, and everything else that goes into these dashboards. We didn't talk about, things we've talked about in other episodes where you can publish those dashboards, you can have them automatically emailed to your leadership wherever you need to report into your governance or change, management, whoever's doing those things. You can just automate a lot of that reporting and the process as well. So Jason, thank you for this tour of our options getting from Windows 10 to Windows 11. A great job as always. And so, folks, as I said earlier, in the show notes below, there's tons of documentation and helpful articles there to get you there. Also, keep an eye out on your Tanium Guardian over there on the right side. You might see these alerts pop up that say, hey, you got some old Windows 10 out there, right? And it'll take you to this dashboard so you can get things patched up. Well, that's it for today's Tanium Tech Talks. Until next time, go Tanium.